Welcome. This is episode 10, week 9 recap of the season 2 of the Fantasy Trail. I'm Matt, along with
Everybody but Scarano here. Pretty excited about this.
Mike is cleaning up a boxing ring, I guess, something like that.
Listen, the female MMA match ended on Saturday night, and he's been scrubbing down that octagon ever since.
So I don't know. He said he probably wouldn't get to join us tonight, but he might pop in, and who knows? He'll probably be checking in with us.
Yeah, we hope to have him join in at some point. That would be good, but if not, we understand.
All right, it was quite an interesting week in the league.
A lot of moving and shaking.
Yeah, I think it started with a very active waiver wire.
The most active I can remember, I believe.
And what do we have? 2 more weeks to buys or 1 week? Is this the last week?
I don't know. Let me look real quick. But I believe we're getting close. Okay. This was the big one, though. Weren't there 6 teams on the bye this last week?
Yeah, and I mean, this upcoming week's a big one for me.
Yeah, me too. There are 2 more weeks tomorrow. This week is Baltimore.
Starting, tight end starting, running back.
Yeah. Well, all the more impressive to pull out a W. You're right. There are 2 weeks. Baltimore, Kansas City, Oakland, Philly this week. A lot of big names there. And then Carolina, Indianapolis, Jets, and San Fran final week. Less big.
And then we're also starting to see a lot of people coming back from injured reserve, which is interesting because you never quite know what you're going to get.
Yeah, there's some names I was out looking at today, and people had already scooped them up. So smart moves by people out there.
Who?
Just a couple guys. Maybe they never got dropped in the first place, but I'm starting to see these reports of people coming back. So
you were looking for Woodhead, weren't you?
That was one of them. Yeah.
He Rachel, right? Never dropped him.
Never dropped him. Yeah.
Yeah.
Smart.
I mean, look, our IR spot has kind of changed that. I've had
Olsen, right?
Olsen on my bench now for.
Yeah.
So I figured I had the spot. I mean,
hey, I have Deshaun Watson there just for team morale. Guy around the winner.
Hey, and it works. I mean, I'm sure he'll give a better pregame speech than Winston.
What about the 2.5? I kind of loved it.
And then did you see Jackson just kind of stare at him?
Yes, indeed. All right, let's get to it.
All right.
Where you want to start?
All right. Let's start. We'll start with me. I ranked myself number 1.
Something new.
You two did not, and I just proved you wrong. I put up the high score of the week against Rich, who had a rough week with some of his players. Crabtree had a terrible game. Jackson had a terrible game. He lost his quarterback, and then he got nothing from Ryan Griffin.
It's interesting because I made a waiver play for Ryan Griffin, and he beat me to it. And I ended up picking up Vernon Davis, who had a 10. And that may have saved my week. So thank you, Rich, for being active on the waiver wire. And I mean, he made it somewhat respectable with Stafford last night with a good game.
Yeah.
But
and Stafford has a pretty good schedule coming up.
Yeah.
I think they're only going to use Miller more. Mixon had a decent game, and Peterson.
Yeah, Peterson looking sharp. And he was missing Brown. There's no doubt about that. That hurts, but it wasn't going to make a difference this week. I said a few weeks back I thought Rich was in some serious trouble. He's lost 3 in a row. I think he's gone 1-4 since I said that. So it's tough. He was never great on his depth, and he hasn't figured out how to balance those wide receivers. He seems to have some trouble picking who to play every week, and it seems like Lee or somebody is always having a good game on his bench.
And then, I mean, if Rich, I would drop Miller and Luck, put it on the IR spot, and then pick up someone else. I mean, I feel bad. Galladay hasn't played in.
Yeah, I don't understand that. Played beautifully to start the year. It looked like a good waiver pickup. We were excited after week 1. Hasn't played in 6 straight weeks now.
Is there anything you want to say about my team?
Yeah, I think it's an incredible win when you lost your juggernaut. You lost your Brady to Gronk, and you also lost your kicker. You replaced all 3 of those guys. Kicker obviously a lot easier, but sliding Kelsey over is nice. And you went with the Rams, and you did the Cooper Kupp Jared Goff combo. And Jared Goff has been one of those things where nobody trusted him. Pick him up on a waiver wire week where he has his highest scoring week of the year. And as much as you've had some bad luck in terms of the teams you're playing, your scoring has been consistently the highest. So, we tease you about ranking you 1, but based on your weekly average scoring, it seems like everybody that you pick up seems to be great for you, from Fuller for those couple weeks to Goff, and it balances out when you have a game like Doug Martin.
I will say I wasn't expecting to get Goff. I had actually picked up Cutler a little bit earlier, and Goff just kind of fell to me. Mm-hmm. Look, I think Goff's going to close out the season very well. He's kind of like Roethlisberger. He has his good games and his bad games.
But he's only had maybe 3 really bad games, and it's against 3 great defenses. Yeah. Washington, Jacksonville, and Seattle. Every other week he's had 19, 20, 26, 18, 32. I think if he's not going against an elite D, like he's maybe got 2 more, Seattle and Minnesota. Other than that, he's got some nice matchups.
Seattle's been getting burned. I mean, everyone scores. It seems to be a shootout with them every week.
Last week, Washington only put up a few. If Seattle at home, especially.
Yeah, I don't know. It just seems like it's. Watson put up. It just seems like they've been giving up. They're not the same D they were.
Agreed, but at home, I still think they're a tough matchup.
Yeah. So, look, I got some players who still need to turn it around a little bit. But I know you had him on your bench for a little while. He's the number 7 kicker.
I just couldn't keep him. He's a good kicker. He puts up about 10 every week. He really does, very consistently. He's a good kicker. I just couldn't keep him when I had Elliott, who was doing so well. Your guy.
I mean, Elliott's number 1 kicker in the game right now.
Hey, I know you teased me about the Drake Williams, or you asked me like I had some sort of insight, and I didn't know anything. I actually would have rather had Drake, and I still think Drake looks like the better player, but you didn't play him. That Williams actually outscored him.
He got the touchdown, and Drake had the fumble, which never good.
Drake looked good though. That's a good pickup. I think that you got to be happy with that.
Yeah. All right, moving on. We'll just go on to you. You took down Michael Thomas, 108 to 92. This game went back and forth. Let's start with Michael's team. This was a rough week for Michael.
Yeah.
And it's not going to help that Evans got suspended.
Does not. Weird play.
Yeah, I don't know how he trusts Benjamin in Buffalo until you actually see him play a game.
And I have to say the Ajayi thing was a little bit of a fluke. I mean, it was a blowout when he burst that 60-yard touchdown run. He didn't do much other than that. So I wouldn't necessarily trust him either with Smallwood and Blount and what's the other guy's name that scored 2 touchdowns. There's just such a committee there.
3 touchdowns. Clement.
Yeah, right. So nice score from him. Not somebody that feel confident.
Yeah. Lacey got hurt, so we'll see. And then, Big Ben comes back. Will he play Newton over Big Ben? Tough choice.
Well, Big Ben goes to Indianapolis. It was certainly not a great D, and Cam is home for Miami, so I don't think he has a bad choice. Cam's looked real up and down, but I'd say the same for Big Ben. Neither one of them has looked very good.
Yeah.
Michael's in some trouble for a team that's 6-3. He's got to be a little nervous. He's got some good players, but there's been some weird movement on his team. A lot of trades.
Yeah,
all his guys are getting trades, suspended. Just a lot of things that are out of his control.
Yeah. Now you had a rough week with as far as buys go. I guess you'll find out Thursday if McFadden's going to be worth holding on to.
I guess.
Or not.
I'm not even sure he's worth holding on to anyway. It just seems like Morris. I mean, they don't even activate him. They supposedly are trying to keep him healthy, but I'm suspicious.
Yeah. Josh Gordon joined the team. So that's looking up. You got to be happy to get Rivers and Gordon. Doesn't look like you'll have Hogan, but I mean, I think you slide Riddick down to one of your flex spots in your team. I mean, your team looks real strong.
I know I'm not going to have Hogan. I'm pretty certain of that. I feel good. I feel a lot better than I did earlier in the year. I think some waiver moves helped out. I also think I've caught some lucky matchups a couple times. I'm nervous.
You've turned your season around more than any other team.
I've done what?
Turn your season around.
Yeah, I still don't feel good about my bottom flex spots. Those are my areas I don't feel good about, and that's why, if I can, I'd like to make a move where I kind of get a 2-for-1. And Williams, I can't expect that from him every week, and Richardson, maybe he'll do better, but I just don't have confidence. I like every one of my positions, except that I wouldn't mind Riddick in the flex spot. I don't feel great about Richardson, so I'm still lacking some depth. But happy with the win, gotta say.
Yeah. You gotta be.
Didn't see it coming, and was really enjoying having 3 guys against Michael's none last night. That's a nice thing to watch.
All right, let's move on. Angela continues her dominance, beating Haley 106-72.
She just keeps winning, man. She just keeps winning.
Look, now we'll talk about Haley's team in a second, but she didn't play tight end. He was called scratch late, but
it was late, but.
And Gio put up a negative score. It was a negative 0.1, but still, it's a negative score, and she still beat Haley by over 30 points.
Well, Haley also had a negative score too, but more of a rough week for Haley than a great week for Angela. 106 is fine, especially considering 2 guys, like you said, that did so poorly, but she left a lot of points on the bench. I mean, you got to slide Ivory in when the news comes out about Fournette, and you got somebody like Ertz out. Angela, good for her. I'm proud to say that she just keeps winning against all of my better interests, but the things like that are why I don't think she can sustain, because there's going to be a time when she misses something because she's not paying attention close enough, and it costs her in the playoffs.
Maybe. And that was also, she had her number 1 running back on the bench. I mean, He was out on a ball. So.
Again, she keeps winning. I can't argue with it. I'd trade teams with her for sure. Good for her. A little flashback game for Forte. I mean, for goodness sakes, that's double what he'd had in any week this year. He'd had no touchdowns all year, and suddenly gets 2. So that's a little bit of a fluke. But
yeah,
I don't know. Good on her.
With Haley, I think she made all the right moves. I know the Broncos those games. The Bills played the much better game there.
Yeah, she made the right call there, and she got Reed out of there when the news came out. Didn't have much from Brait. She's got a lot on the bench. Crowell's probably usually starting for her. Dalen's been pretty good. Cohen's been pretty good.
But now, I mean, maybe she can chime in, because I'm assuming she's watching. But isn't this the second time this season Stewart's given her a negative score?
Yes, and you look at the stats. It is Stewart's just been brutal. He scored a touchdown in week 8, and he had some receiving yards in week 1, but he has not broke the 6-point mark other than those two, and he's had 2 negative scores. I think he's going to be benched, and there she is chiming in. I would be very surprised if he doesn't maybe get shipped off. Carolina needs a new running back. That is awful to watch. The local team being that game on for me. He's awful.
Yeah. But you know what? She made a very sneaky move picking up Cohen when he was dropped on the bye week. You know, I think he's a nice compliment to McCoy. Like, you know, McCoy, look, 2.5, that's a terrible score for McCoy.
Can't win with that.
Better days are ahead, and I think, you know, that will kind of solidify her bench, her flex spots.
Yeah, tough bye week, tough matchup week, -2 from Stewart. I'm not writing her off. I think she's still in good shape. She was coming on real strong before this one. Great Tyrod game again. Real nice Baldwin game. Nobody else shows up. 72 is not bad when you only have 2 players.
You know, the Adams, Rodgers, and again, she's been consistently playing 2 tight ends all year.
She does love that. Nick O'Leary getting a lot of love.
And you know what? She can't even pick up a 3rd tight end. She only have 3.
I don't know. I think she'll be okay, but that one stinks. I think she probably was expecting better this week with the Bills-Jets matchup.
Yeah. Should look to changing that rule for next year. I want 4 tight ends.
She could do it.
I have 3.
Why?
It's in the roster settings.
You can't have 3 flexes and a tight end?
No, yeah, you can only have 3 tight ends on your roster.
Oh, well, this seems very important. We should address this immediately.
4 quarterbacks.
Well, now that I actually have interest in.
Moving on, Casey gets his first win in a while, taking down Brian, who's lost 2 in a row now. 0.2 to 102.7, and I only add the decimal points just because lost by 0.7 of a point from getting the highest score.
True. Yeah. Casey, good week. Good week.
Yep.
I mean, when you look at his squad, nobody had a monster game. Bye, you're right.
I mean, he
good really game.
Stewart having that terrible game.
Yeah, definitely a very good game for McCaffrey, but nobody had like a standout game, and to score almost the highest points, that's impressive.
Well, I mean, and then Demaryius Thomas, he scored his first touchdown in over a year, so that helped.
Is it really?
God, yeah,
that's insane.
Look, again, I don't understand carrying 2 kickers who are both playing, 2 defenses that are both playing,
and a quarterback who's out for the year.
At least slide him to your IR spot. I mean,
yeah.
So, but that's with Bell out. You put Bell back in. Right. I mean, he has a scary team.
Yeah. Brian, on the other hand, got screwed from his quarterback. I mean, tough matchup in Seattle, but you give Cousins a 20, and he's sitting at 115, and that's a respectable score and close to the top. Even if he loses, you can swallow that a little easier. But 8 points from your quarterback sucks.
Tight end. Jenkins had looked good for a long time in the last couple weeks. He's just not getting the calls. I believe he had another touchdown taken away from him in this game.
Oh, no. Well, yeah, Brian's got to be bummed there because he had such a boost midweek when he got the news about Elliott coming in. That was such a big thing for him. He's got Kamara, who's been just probably the pickup of the year. I would have to say he might be the best waiver wire pickup that's been out there. He just looks like a total stud every week, receiving, rushing. An incredible Tyreek Hill play before the half.
Yeah,
I still can't believe it worked. And just got let down by a couple guys.
I mean, Elliott with a down week still gives you 15 points. Thursday's going to be a big day for him.
Yeah. I think from what I've heard that they are bargaining. I think they know the league has enough to probably get a suspension. I think they're going in to try and go for maybe 3 or 4 games instead.
I don't think the league will do it. I think the league wants to say, we have the power. It doesn't matter. You have to do what we say.
Possible. I also think the league has known that this mess has somehow been going on for 10 weeks, and they're paying a great deal of money for this. And they might be willing to make some sort of compromise and still sit his butt down for 4 games or something. I wouldn't be surprised at anything at this point. It's absurd.
All right. Moving on. And let's move on to what I would say probably the most surprising matchup of the week. Joel takes down Scarano, 105-91.
What part was the surprise? Was it the surprise the guy who was 0-8 lost again?
Surprisingly it is because, 3 weeks ago we had written off Joel. She put up a top score in the league this week.
Yeah.
And
number 7, I think. No, yeah, you're right. Number 6.
And look, she keeps on winning. She would look better with Goff as her quarterback instead of Dalton. Joelle, if you're listening, if she's not, maybe there's someone who lives with you who is listening because he's looking at me in the screen. Could mention something to her.
Tamala, she got 5 points from her quarterback, played Mike Tolbert, got a 0 from the Chiefs D, and 1. Scarano should probably just quit.
Well, but how many points did Ed Dixon have?
Hold on, let me check. Carry the 1. Look at Jared Cook on the bench, and 16 less than Jared Cook.
Yep. All right. I will say, look, Hilton was a monster. Jones was a monster.
Jones was a winning monster. That was it. He was up. He was up. Let's see. She won by 24 last night, and Janet won by 50. So 9 he was up. And he had Aaron Jones, and she had Marvin Jones. That looks like a win to him. Jones has been pretty good for him. That is, 21 last week. I cannot believe that turned out the way it did. She went to bed thinking it was over. I went to bed thinking it was over. Both woke up to see Scarano winless.
Yeah. And look,
fantastic.
I've got to be happy with Lynch. Best game of the season. Smith has still been. I think with Aaron Jones, if Green Bay keeps on falling behind, he's not going to have the value. But if they can somehow stay in the game, it'll work. Look good, but who knows what's going to happen once Woodhead comes back.
Scarano has a 5 running back stable on his bench. And he is just going to be juggling them, and it's going to be brutal to try and figure out who to play.
Yeah. So, okay,
tough one for him. I felt for him there. As much as I like to tease, there's no way Joel should have had a victory there.
Honestly, if Scarano was going to win a game, it was probably going to be against Joel.
That was going to be the one. Let's wrap it up.
Do you think he wins a game, though?
Do I think he wins a game? I'd have to look at his remaining schedule. I'll do that if you want to start to pull up the next game.
All right, last game. We have Jake continues his winning ways. 107 against Colin, who only put up a 72. Allen also did not play anyone in his flex spot.
Yeah, I think he sandbagged it. I believe, and I didn't talk to him about this, but I believe he was waiting to see at the 4 o'clock what he was looking like, and he was down by so much. The Jameis Winston injury, I think he just didn't have any chance at it and didn't want to drop any of the guys on his team. And if you look at his bench, you can see why.
Put Morris in there.
Okay, agreed.
Not that it would have changed anything.
Yeah.
But.
Yeah. I guess I thought that on Sunday too. What's the worst that could happen? He gets a 0, but.
So we'll see.
A little bit of a free fall for Colin. 3 losses in a row. He was 5-1 at one point. He was leading the league with the most points and 5-1, and he is kind of fallen apart. He has absolutely no quarterback situation right now. Winston out for who knows. And you're really taking some chances if you're out there. I know you were offering Goff for a trade. I am more than fine to have Rivers out there. I would imagine he's probably got a few other people who are willing to make some trades with him. He's going to need something. He's going to need to give up some of that depth he didn't want to drop if he wants to improve. Because
Winston is out, and he will be out for a couple good games.
Couple weeks. He won't have Yeldon, which probably might be a good thing. AJ Green, I don't know what happened with that. That was super strange. But, he gets Diggs back. He gets McKinnon back. He gets maybe Allen back. He gets Morris to possibly step in. I don't know. Oh, Haley. Oh, shots fired.
Yeah, so, he's got some. Now with Jake, look, Fournette, that could have been a killer for him.
Unbelievable.
He gets his 2 Patriot receivers back. And then he has Rod Smith, who, if anything happens with Elliott, could be a steal.
Could be in play. And somehow he's stuck with Wentz on his bench, always with the brutal decision between Breeze and Wentz. I really think at this point, unless it's a bye like next week, it's Wentz going forward every week.
Well, yeah, and maybe he does that after the Eagles bye. We'll see.
Yeah, another good win for him though. I think it really validated his choice to punt the week last week. Rams D 11, Greg Zuerlein 17. Those are guys he didn't want to drop, and most people might have, and he didn't want to. So.
All right, let's go on to.
While you're doing that, I'm pulling up Scarano's remaining schedule. He plays Jake this week. I don't feel good about that one. He plays me the following week. I could easily lose to Scarano because that would be something I would do the minute I start to turn my season around. He plays you the week after that. But he ends the year against Casey. So I think he has a chance against both me and Casey. I would say he's going to be in trouble against you and Jake, especially because you will have a full roster with no buys. And I do not believe Jake is getting hit with many buys this week. Jake, in fact, should get people back. All he loses is Blunt, but he gets Fournette back, and he gets Cooks back, and he gets Amendola back if he wants him. So I think Scarano, at best, picks up 1 win this year, but could ever fantasy bagel.
Yeah, I think it's going to be the bagel.
I got to say, I'd kind of enjoy that.
All right. Moving on, these are our current rankings. Jake is still
tip top,
number 1 in the league.
Angela right there.
Our division is real close, though. We'll say Brian's the lowest at 4 and 5. I'm not going to even count Scarano in there. Whereas, Angela's kind of running away with it. And you've been able to move in the second place in Division 2 with a 4 and 5 record.
Yeah, the craziest part is that we only have 2 teams that are out of it. Brian is holding that 6th spot, but he's tied with me and Rich and Rachel and Joel. There are 5 teams that are tied for that final spot. And he's got it due to points. That's the tiebreaker right now. I think he's obviously certainly capable of holding on to it, but having lost 2 in a row, maybe losing Zeke, that last playoff spot could go to who knows. And then there you got Colin with the same bit. I feel pretty good about the top 4 spots of at least remaining in the playoffs. But those final 2 spots, they're really up in the air when you got people like Rich losing 3 in a row, Colin losing 3 in a row, Brian losing 2 in a row. Whew.
Yeah. But even Joelle's she's won 2 in a row. And, like I said, we've kind of wrote her off, but she keeps on winning. All right. Yep. So 12th place, of course, is Scarano, and he'll remain there until he wins the game, which we just talked about.
I just want him to waking moment of his life, how horribly bad that Ed Dickson trade was.
Yeah.
I don't care what happens with Cooper for the rest of his days. If he would have stuck it out one more week and played Cooper, he'd have a win, first of all. And Ed Dickson has been trash. And meanwhile, Cook is tearing up the league.
Yep.
It's all that matters. 0-9.
Yeah. All right. And that brings us to the other, and that's Casey. Casey had the second highest score in the league this week.
I think that's tough, man.
But
it's hard not to rank him there. It's hard not to, but I think at this moment he doesn't have the 11th worst team.
I don't think he's ever had the 11th worst team. I think he's made some questionable decisions. But at the same time, I think he's clearly out of a playoff spot.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's true.
So I kind of have him. If he can put together another win or two, move him out. But
do you think he kind of wrote off the year a little bit and hasn't paid attention as much as a result? And he set his lineup, but he hasn't made crazy waiver moves, and he's got this, bench situation we were talking about. Do you think if he would have snuck out a few wins earlier in the year, he'd be a little more active?
Maybe. I don't know. I don't know how much time he puts into it. I know he has a couple other leagues. I don't know. Look, his team's solid.
I know
he is a good team.
I know it's a lot better than 2-7.
And then you put Bell back in there.
I don't want to blame him.
Better. Yeah, I wouldn't feel good about it. So Rich is our next team, but Rich has a 4-5 record. Do we rank Rich lower than we do Casey?
It all depends on how you look at the rankings. Are you looking at the rankings as of that exact moment? Are you projecting forward? Are you looking at record? There's a lot of things that I think we think about each week, and it changes. Right now, I would rather have Casey's team than have Rich's team. But, I guess 2 more wins are more important. Rich has a chance at the playoffs. Casey doesn't.
Yeah. I just think how great Adrian Peterson would look on my team. Kept him for so long.
Tough one, man. We need 1 more week.
Yep. So, but Rich, Miller's injuries killer. Doesn't look like Luck's going to come back this year.
Yeah, some weird reports out of there. How often can we say that the number 10 ranked team in the year was only 1 game out of the playoffs?
Yeah.
Very competitive league outside of two squads.
All right, and moving on. Joelle actually moves up just a little bit. She is now ranked number 9. And look, she had a terrible week. 5 points from a quarterback, 3 points from your running back, 0 points from your D.
I'm shocked. It's bad coaching. She's asked me to really stay hands off, and there are times in the past when I made suggestions or hints or hey, I think you should maybe play this guy or not, and I haven't said a word this year. And when you look at this, Mike Tolbert should not be playing ever. And she had Sammy Watkins she could have put in. She had Randall Cobb she could have put in, and She put in one of those two guys, and she might have had close to the top score of the week. It's all Hilton and Jones, but wow.
But like, I mean, I know she put Murray in her flex spot, but Murray's been a disappointment for her.
Huge disappointment.
And you kind of like Tolbert against the Jets. You think he might be able to get in for short yardage.
I think he's had no points this year. I mean, just it's been an awful play if you look at his week by week.
Oh, but I mean, you're hoping for the one play.
Yeah, but that's too big of a flyer over Sammy Watkins or Randall Cobb. I mean, outside of week 1 for Tolbert, the dude's never scored over 4 points.
No, looking at
you're playing one of those other two guys.
I may have, but I think looking at the matchups, if I was going to take a flyer, because you never know what you're getting with Watkins.
Agreed. But Cobb back healthy, short passes from a quarterback who needs to throw short passes. That's your play.
I don't trust anyone in Green Bay right now.
I certainly trust him more than the backup fullback on Buffalo.
All right, next comes Rachel Slippin. Rough week. Anytime you end up with a negative score on your lineup and a 0, that's always tough.
Well, Rachel always feels better when she's ranked lower. She's a true underdog story. That's what she likes.
Yeah, and she kind of likes the 8th, 9th spot. So
yeah, we're trying to help you out, Haley.
All right, moving on. He actually, and he was tied with you last week.
Yeah,
and so he actually stays in 7th place. Although he might say he's a little bit lower or not.
Yeah, I'm sure he's down on his squad, but his bench is still solid. Coleman and Henry and Powell are 3 good, startable running backs.
But at the same time, I think they're going to have up and downs weeks. They're not every week starters, and it's finding which is the right one to play.
Yeah, right. But he's going to have an easier decision, I think, when he has to play a couple of them, thanks to Zeke going out.
So do you think Zeke's going to go out?
Yes, I do. I'd be very surprised if he doesn't.
I think a surprising thing on his bench was Aguilar only putting up 4.6 points.
2 weeks in a row, he's been a bump.
And next week, he could be huge.
I don't know.
All right. Next is you, moving up to 6th place.
Boom! Look at that. I've seen the basement. I'm rising to the tip top.
I mean, it's hard to put up a 0 on your bench. I mean, maybe not when you have 5 players on bye.
Yeah. I did get a solid 0. I didn't have much choice, which was good. Russell Shepard was clearly not a good idea. I took a flyer on him. He had 1 reverse for 11 yards and didn't do anything else. But other than him, I was pretty pleased with most people. I would have liked more from Richardson, but not bad. Not a bad week considering I lost the guys I did.
I think if you stick with Richardson, he'll go back and score a little bit more. I think this was just a tough matchup, and they were able to game plan for him a little bit more so than they have been in the past.
Yep.
And then, with Gordon out, I mean, you got to be happy with Gordon coming back. And then who knows, you could get a big playoff push with Josh Gordon coming back.
It's a total flyer. Who knows? But if I don't even know completely if he's not smoking and drinking before the game.
All right. Next, Colin.
Interesting matchup this week. I believe I am playing against him. And he's got some interesting choices and a lot of guys coming back. He's in a free fall. He is probably just looking to do anything to stop that at the moment. I would like to continue.
I mean, I guess we could count his free fall back to Charles Clay injury. Who would have thought? Buffalo Bill tight end.
Not usually the trigger for a winning or losing streak.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see what he does with the quarterback situation.
Yes, agreed. Still possibly the pick of the year with Gurley.
Absolutely. All right. Mike is up next, fourth place.
Another man in a little bit of trouble.
Yeah, but I see his team, and his team scares me. You and I were talking about the points scored, and maybe it shouldn't scare me. Maybe it's just the names, but I mean, this week is going to be hard with Evans suspended. Lacey's injured.
He's got a couple guys he can put in those spots.
But
a lot of movement. Ajayi, Benjamin, that's tough. Both guys kind of looking for new roles and new places. Mike doesn't really have the time to be sitting there allowing these guys to figure that out. He needs wins now.
All right, Mike, we will ignore it. All right, moving on.
Trying to figure out what that was in reference to.
Negative score, a 0. Still a top scorer in the league, with a lot of points sitting on her bench.
Yep. Good squad. If she paid a little more attention, she'd have an even better one. But it hasn't cost her anything this year. But I still think there will be a time when it will.
Oh, I mean, definitely. She's got to be thrilled with Hopkins, though. You kind of wondered what would happen with him.
Yeah.
But I mean, target monster. All right. Next, number 2.
Feels fair.
I got some moves to make this week. Losing Hunt, Jeffrey, Kelsey. Luckily, I get Gronk back and Brady.
And I think you slide Drake in.
Yeah.
Maybe even Beasley, especially if Williams goes out. Or Dez, for that matter.
I think Beasley. I've been tempted to drop Beasley a couple times, but I think if Elliott does get suspended, I think a lot of his targets is more of a dump off.
Well, and you have their top 2 receivers are both questionable right now, so that's a big one going against an Atlanta defense that's not exactly awesome.
Yeah. All right, and that leaves us with Jake as number 1.
The monster. The monster makes it through a tough week with the last-minute news on Fournette for ridiculous stuff. I think I read something that Marcel Darius was late to a meeting or missed something 28 times before he got suspended for 1 quarter. And suddenly Fournette misses a couple things and he gets suspended for a game. I feel like there's more to it.
I think they're just trying to nip it in the bud before it happens.
Well, then why didn't he do it with Darius? Weak.
We'll see. All right. So this is the ranking breakdown. Both you and Scarano wouldn't rank me number 1. I think you're scared.
How dare you? I can't believe you ranked yourself 1 again.
Yeah, it worked out for me, didn't it?
It did. It's tough to argue with the results. We're pretty on with each other this week, and there was a lot of movement. I'm impressed we kept it as close as we did.
The only real difference I see is you both ranked as 4. I ranked them 6, and as we'll get into the next, he's only scored 840 or 874 points. Besides Scarano, Rachel and Joel, he's low. So I think for having scored so few of points, his ranking is a little high. I mean, he finds a way to win.
Yep.
Record I do. So I can't hold that against him, but I didn't realize his score was that low until I looked back at it.
Right. It's a substantial drop. The point disparity is fascinating to me when you look at the fact that you have the same record as him.
Yeah. And then, Colin has the second most points scored, and he's lost 3 in a row. I mean, that's tough.
It is, but with that said, he was way ahead of you and is now almost 100 behind you, and Angela's creeping up on him, and Jake's creeping up on him, and that gap has really been closing. That was a 150 a week clip he was moving at in the first 3-4 weeks, and that has steadily dropped.
Yeah. So this was the composite scoring that you put together.
I think I fixed you, right?
Yeah. Look, it's difference.
It's about as smushed together as our regular league stats. I mean, there is no change. This is the worst possible argument for me to go to this. It is not affecting a darn thing. Even the no divisions is barely affecting anything. It would give you a bye instead of Angela,
which would be huge.
Matters. It definitely matters, but we never talked to no divisions.
Yeah.
We did talk the other thing. And I'd be willing to talk no divisions in the future, but I don't know if that would get much traction.
Yeah. All right. So we are back.
Quick look at the week ahead.
Yeah, let me pull it up.
We can start with.
Who do you want to start with?
Let's start with my game.
Okay, you start while
right now, Colin has moved Jameis to the IR. He is definitely out there shopping, clearly via Haley. He's got an offer out there for Matt Ryan. He's got an offer possibly from you for Jared Goff. I've put out there that I'm interested in giving up Phillip Rivers. He's got some choices. It's about what he's willing to give up. Rachel says he's being cocky with what he wants back for what he's given up. I haven't had any kind of offer, neither of you, but he's got to do something. There's no choice. He's going to make one of those moves because I don't think he's going to the waiver wire for that. I could be wrong. Maybe we'll find out tomorrow morning that he decided he'd rather go to the waiver wire, but there's some untrustable names out there.
There are.
I still don't feel great. I still like the rest of his squad. If he gets a serviceable quarterback in there, I like the rest of his team more than I like the rest of my team. I already lost to him once this year, and I don't know. I feel okay.
But you know what? Gurley has a tough matchup against Houston. They're a much better run D than pass D. I kind of feel like AJ Green is not really one to get worked up. I think he's going to want to send a message to the league. And then, the rest of his team, you never know. He's
got a couple tough matchups from Diggs and McKinnon against a pretty good Washington defense to Keenan Allen against a very, very good Jacksonville defense to Fitzgerald against a very good Seattle defense. So the matchups aren't great, but I still like a lot of what he has to offer.
Yep, and you're going big with Detroit against Cleveland. If you're going to go big, that's a good matchup to go big against.
Go big, go against Cleveland. Okay. All right, how about you versus Michael?
Okay.
Big matchup.
Yeah. He's got to find a kicker. Like we said, he has some between the buys and the possible injuries. He's going with Roethlisberger at Indy.
Interesting to see his lineup in place right now. Very different from what he was rolling with last week.
Yeah. It's interesting to see what could happen.
A lot of moves
I
out
think
there.
Evan,
I like seeing this.
that
You're
matchup
both
scares me.
very different teams than you were last week.
Yep. So look, hey, I was thrilled I was able to get through last week with a win. These were my two toughest weeks.
Yep. You'd be happy to go 1-1 in these 2 weeks. So if you can get out here 2-0, you got to be thrilled.
Absolutely. So let's move on to Rich against Casey. Neither of them set their lineups just yet. Rich,
and so that means Casey needs a quarterback too. So depending on if he's riding that waiver wire, Colin may want to be thinking about the fact that Casey could be making a bid for a quarterback that he's looking at as well.
But a little bit easier for Casey to make a move. Just putting Palmer on IR.
Oh, I don't mean about dropping people. I just mean in Colin's sake, if he's thinking he's counting on, I'm the only one going after a quarterback in the waiver wire.
Yeah. So we'll see. Maybe there'll be a trade.
I would like to see it.
Yeah. And honestly, I think Rich has get rid of Miller. And if he could, I might even try and throw Galladay on my IR and get drop luck. But that's me.
I think Rich is still in trouble, even with a couple nice matchups. I still think Rich is in trouble. I would, if Casey can pull out a serviceable quarterback, I think Casey might take this one when he gets Bell back in there, and the rest of his squad is looking good.
All right. Next we have Haley taking on Joelle. Joelle's needs a defense and a kicker.
Yeah.
Or no, she doesn't need a kicker.
No, she doesn't need a kicker. This could be a loser leaves town match.
Yeah.
With the amount of weeks that we have left, I'm looking at it. We only have 4 weeks left. If you're 2 games behind with then only 3 to go, I think that might mean that you are probably out of the playoffs. It's not a guarantee, but this is pretty close to a loser leaves town when there's so many other teams that could be ahead of them. Big for both these squads.
But you know what? I mean, I think Haley's running with 2 defenses, and they both have interesting matchups. Bills against New Orleans and Broncos against New England.
Yeah. Wow. Jeez.
I think if Haley can get through this week, she'll get Woodhead back, and that changes her team dramatically. Yep.
Good starter. It looked like he was going to be getting most of the carries when he returns. Joelle's got some moves to be made. I would not feel great about Dalton. He had a little resurgence there in the middle of the year, but he has been overall pretty crummy.
That's why she needs to pick up golf.
All right. Who's next?
Next we got Brian taking on Angela. Now this is an interesting matchup.
We can't even say anything about this until next Thursday. Or until Thursday, excuse me.
Yeah. Angela's got to make. She needs a defense and a tight end. There's not much out there.
She's got Howard to put in, though.
What?
She's got Howard to put in for Bernard.
Yeah. But I mean, both. I think tight end and defenses are probably 2 of the thinnest positions on the waiver wire.
Yeah, agreed. But I think Brian's in trouble. I think he will get the news that Zeke's out. You got Gimpy Dez. You got Hill out on a bye. You got Collins out on a bye. You got Cousins going up against another pretty good defense. Oof, Brian, tough week. Tough week.
All right, and then next we have Scarano taking on Jake.
And Scarano loses the only good player he has.
Scarano, I mean, yeah, Scarano's got quite a couple moves he needs to make.
By the way, Colin and Casey and Scarano are all in need of a quarterback because Scarano did trade away his only other quarterback. So right now you have 3 squads that need one 100%, and you got Joel who might need one. It's a very interesting quarterback week.
But now, are any of them willing to pay the price to take a quarterback from another team?
I think they're going to have to be, because if you go to the waiver wire, there are a couple quarterbacks out there. I mean, I'm not spilling any beans by saying that, there's some names out there. Everybody who goes to the wire can see it. But the question is, do you trust any of those guys more than you do some of the names that are available, from the Goff to the Rivers to the Ryan? Those are better names. There's a few of these guys that I like a little bit, like Brissett, but he's got a brutal matchup against Pittsburgh.
Yeah. I think with Scarano, because he just needs him for the bye week, he probably doesn't want to pay the price. But
I agree. I don't think Scarano should make a trade. I don't think Casey should make a trade. I think you got 2 teams that are worth making a trade for, Colin and Joel.
Yeah.
Both the teams are working in for a trade because it would be a long-term solution. It's not a 1-week thing. I don't think either Colin or Joel wants to be running with McCown or Fitzpatrick going forward. It's just not. You can't be comfortable with that.
All right. Do you buy into any of the talk that they may bench Alex Smith, who I know is still top 5 fantasy quarterback this year?
No, I don't think they would do that this year. I know they have Mahomes, but even though they've lost a few, they've had a very difficult schedule. I would be shocked if they went ahead and benched him. I mean, maybe if they lose 2 more in a row or something, but I do believe they're going to turn it around, especially after the bye week.
And Andy Reid does have a very excellent. I think he's lost maybe 2 games in his career.
Right. Scarano going against the top team in the league without his best player and not very much hope on his bench. And he's also got Mr. Dixon that has to play. And he loses Lynch and he loses Allen. I mean, it's a murderer's row of buys, and he happens to be going against the guest squad. I think Jake could basically play Breeze and Julio and Fournette, and he could bench the rest of his squad, and I think he'd still win.
Yeah. So interesting. It's a very interesting matchup with how that's going.
I would say that if Scarano were to win this, it would be the biggest upset in the history of fantasy in our league ever.
Would Scarano ever stop talking about it?
It wouldn't matter. He's not even here.
All right. I guess that brings the end. Scarano is not here with a hot take. I think we all watch sports to kind of get away. Most of us, we're not home. We're not where we consider home. We've moved away for jobs, for family, for other reasons. So, in some way, our sports teams become family for us. And, I just got the news getting out of work today that, Holiday killed in a plane crash, 40 years old, 2 kids, and on the Phillies for 4 years. And it was just a gut punch. We were talking a little bit about it before. We realize how much your teams mean to you until something like this happens. The Eagles, they have the best record right now. How often can I say that? Not very often. It's kind of a new feeling, especially being a Philadelphia fan. I mean, Phillies are the losingest team history of sports. But when Holiday was pitching, it never felt that way. And you would stop what you were doing to watch that game. So you know what? Rest in peace. You'll be missed. You had a tremendous impact on all Philly fans, and gone way too soon.
Yeah, man. Agreed. It's certainly something I thought of when I saw the news, was just sadness in general, but thinking of my Philly fan friends. And, it reminds me of a couple times where Cardinal players, Tavares just a couple years ago, and Darryl Kyle. I remember both of those were brutal, especially Kyle because I was younger. But it's just one of those things where you see professional athletes and you do not expect them. And we've seen it a little bit in the last couple, especially with baseball players, more than almost any other sport.
Yeah.
We had Jose Fernandez, very recently as well. All those other three were still playing, but Halladay, not long. It doesn't seem like it was all that long ago. And he was a true star, but as you mentioned earlier when we were talking, seemed like a better guy too. So it just sucks. Yeah, it's just awful. Too much death. It seems like anytime you turn on the news anyway. So it's even worse when it becomes something completely unexpected, like a plane crash in the middle of the Gulf of Mexico or wherever he was.
Yeah.
So
unexpected.
Tough one. That's why we do these fantasy ones, to hopefully give us that distraction and give us that couple moments of fun when there's a lot of other crap going on that isn't as much enjoyable.
Good luck this week, guys, and we will see you next week.
Yeah, we'll be back. Big week. Mook can make a move. There's only 4 left. Playoff